Welcome to Goobertown Hobbies. My name is Brent. We've got a fun one today. You're about to witness my first ever attempt at painting some action figures. McFarlane sent me these samples of their Warhammer toys. Some of them came with colors, and some of them came gray. The gray ones are called the Artist Proof series, and I guess they're intended to be painted. This'll be a fun project. I've never painted anything at this scale, and I've never painted anything with so many moving parts. One option would be to glue the joints in place and to treat these like statues, but I think it'll be more interesting to keep them flexible. Let's keep these as action figures. I'm not sure what kind of plastics these are made of, but I was able to slice and scrape most of the mold lines. If I see a mold line, I've got to try to clean it up. I decided to prime them with black spray paint. I'm hoping that this will give the paint jobs enough durability even when those joints are flapping around. I'm doing my best to get some black paint into all the nooks and crannies. I could have popped all the ball joints apart and painted the pieces separately, but where's the fun in that? Because of the scale of these figures, I'm less worried than normal about clogging up the details. I decided to use the dregs of a couple of old cans of spray paint. We'll see whether or not that comes back to bite us. When the spray paint was dry, I moved the joints around and I found lots of hidden patches of gray plastic. This is probably unavoidable. I'll use black airbrush primer to hit these spots. Something else that I discovered is that the spray primer had made some of the plastic go sticky. These figures are constructed with at least two different types of plastic. One is reasonably hard and the other has some flex to it. The belt and the hip armor on the Terminator are made of the softer stuff. The shininess that you can see is the plastic melding with the primer and getting tacky. I was hoping that this could be fixed by future layers of paint, but spoilers, it cannot. So I used my airbrush to give the figures some more black primer to specific areas. Then, I swapped over to some colors to really get things started. I picked 3 appropriate colors from the Too Thin Coats line, and I thinned them down with water and flow aid for the airbrush. There's nothing fancy here. This is just the fastest way of throwing down a solid coat of the main color on each of these figures. The Terminator is getting Witching Hour Blue, the Khorne Berserker is getting Asmodeus Red, and the Wolf Guard is getting Wolf Gray. This is the fastest way to get that first color on the model. For all the rest, I'll be using a regular paintbrush. Let's get back upstairs and get on with it. I've never painted an action figure before, but I have painted a fair number of Space Marines. Despite the difference in scale, this feels quite similar, and I know exactly where to put a lot of the secondary colors. I normally use a painting handle when I work with miniatures, but here I'm just grabbing the figures directly. I keep accidentally putting my fingers in wet paint and making smudges, so we're gonna need to clean those up later. From time to time, I'm moving the joints around to find places that I might have missed. All in all, I'm touching the model way more than I'm used to. Now most of the color choices were straightforward. I've got an Ultramarines Terminator, a Space Wolf, and a World Eater's Khorne Berserker. Taking a break for a moment, this is one of the pre-painted figures. This Blood Angel doesn't actually have much paint on him, it's mostly just different colors of plastic. On miniatures, I'm used to multiple layers of shading and highlighting, but in the world of action figures that may not be so important. I'm intending to at least do some shading, but who knows, the finish line might sneak up on us. A handful of base colors is getting these to look pretty good. I never had an action figure stage when I was growing up. It was all Micro Machines and Lego for young Brent, but I can see why people like these. Holding one of these chunky Marines reminds me of Andy holding Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, I can see the appeal. For each of these figures, I picked 1 or 2 features that would look cool with rainbow colors. The feathers of the Aquila are a natural target. So this is the 4th year of the Fabulous Marines collaboration. It gets bigger and better every year. Fabulous Marines is a group of miniature painters who use our art as a reminder that everyone is welcome in this hobby. While we're at it, we also raise funds for the Trevor Project. It's fun and there are lots of ways to participate. Learn more at fabulousmarines.com. In the past, I've painted a model from Inquisitor, a Pride Parade biker, and even some Space Marine fishing lures. Fish can't resist these tasty colors. A cool thing that happened this year is some Pride-themed Marines made it into White Dwarf. Shout out to the Gate Crushers. Benoit paints beautiful Pride-themed miniatures year-round, and it's awesome to see some of them in print. I want to read the response from the White Dwarf staff. What an awesome collection of models that you've painted, Benoit, and what an exceptional tribute you're paying to all the many LGBT communities out there. It's incredible how good all the flag colors look on Space Marines. We're all about inclusiveness here at the White Dwarf Bunker. We're also all about creativity. Gold stars all around. Alright, back to my big boys here. I'm using a standard 6-color Pride rainbow. It's the best known of the Pride flags, and from an artistic point of view, rainbows are good clean fun. I kept cranking along and putting smaller and smaller details onto these figures. I wasn't sure what to expect for the quality of the plastic sculpts. Most of the shapes are big and chunky, like they're supposed to be for Space Marines, but the faces actually have some pretty good detail. As these paint jobs are progressing along, I couldn't help myself from doing a bunch of black lining and panel lining. I love this technique, and it works especially well on Marines. These figures are starting to look pretty cool, and I'm feeling less and less comfortable about holding them with my grubby hands. The paint is not entirely durable. We had some nice weather, so I decided to press the save button and lock things in with a quick spray of varnish. I got my aluminum Easton Gretzky painting rig set up, and I hit these guys with some Mod Podge matte clear coat, which is really more of a satin, but that's fine too. Back to work. More black lining. In addition to the recesses, I decided to black line some of the high points on the model too. This will really define some of the shapes and move it a step towards the comic book style of painting. So yeah, I've been wanting to try painting action figures for a while now, and my reaction is kinda mixed. It's always fun to try something new, but I think I prefer miniatures. There's probably a proper way to hold an action figure while you paint, but I haven't found it yet. I feel like I'm continuously damaging my own paint job. Grabbing the figure with my hands doesn't feel great. Also, the limbs of the toy are always moving around and scraping against things. The more time I spend handling these, the more fixes and repairs that I need to make. If anyone out there has a good system for painting action figures, I'd love to hear about it. I'm also curious if anyone else has had the same issues with some of the plastic going sticky when it gets primed. That belt on the Terminator is stickier than ever, and it vexes me. I am terribly vexed. I feel like we've entered the realm of diminishing returns for painting these, so I'm ready to call them done. They look pretty good. They're a lot more detailed than the pre-colored figures from the factory, but the paint that I used is also a lot more delicate. But hey, these are custom, and they're exactly the colors that I wanted them to be. Fabulous Marines is a wonderful excuse to try something new, and it's awesome to see what folks come up with every year. There's always an open invitation to join the Digital Pride Parade. You don't have to paint a Space Marine either. Any model that you want to paint can be part of this event. FabulousMarines.com is where you can go to see a gallery of what folks have painted in years past. Fabulous Marines is well organized, and it keeps getting bigger and better. There are lots of ways to get involved. You can paint a mini yourself, or you can just hang out with the streamers who are painting minis, and you can leave nice comments on Instagram. The festivities are centered around June, but there's never a bad time to paint Pride-themed minis or to start planning for next year. Please consider clicking on the link to donate to the Trevor Project, and definitely go check out all the fun stuff over at FabulousMarines.com. Alrighty, that's all I've got for today. Thanks so much for watching.